Hi, Antonia Rolls here again. I'm creating a series of small videos, short videos, on the subject of suicide, addiction, death and loss. I've lost both my sons to addiction and suicide, and I'm creating these videos talking about navigating the landscape after their deaths and while I continue to live. I'm going to talk today about spiritual healing, which isn't the spiritual healing in this case about putting your hands on people. This is about signs that are sent from whichever God, deity, source you believe in through the Spirit, and they are full of comfort and beauty. I first of all want to read a story from a lady I met recently called Debbie, and this is about her brother Stephen, who died through suicide. My brother was lovely, sensitive, funny. He looked out for me. We got on well together. Stephen was self-employed, crafting his art in the making of maisonette puppets and travelling around the country producing shows for all to see. His childhood was a difficult one with an alcoholic, workaholic father, and he struggled into adult life to have a happy, lasting relationship. He was very close to our mother. She loved my brother and his puppet shows. When she passed in 2017, Stephen lost his muse and his enthusiasm. His audience was no more. So he drove his car off a cliff top. This happened in 2019. I attended a retreat and met Antonia, an artist extraordinaire, and after talking with her and sharing my story about my brother taking his own life, I had a vivid dream about painting a picture. I saw a picture of my brother falling through the sky, his car falling from the cliff top. And I remember saying in my dream, no, this is not the image I want to paint. Then I saw a large canvas, and I had painted a larger-than-life torso in pink. My brother was larger than life. At the centre of the torso was a radiant, bright yellow light shining out from his solar plexus area. This picture, to me, represented my brother returning to the light source, God. Well, huge thanks for Debbie and her generosity in sharing that with me and you and us. So, spiritual healing. When we've lost somebody, whoever it is, and I always say there's no competition in grief. Grief is grief. You lose your cat, it's the same grief often as losing somebody. And under whatever circumstances, yes, the circumstances can colour the kind of grief you have, but grief is grief, and people feel deep grief when they've lost something or someone. This kind of spiritual healing I'm talking about, we long for. We lose somebody, and especially if we lose them to something like suicide or overdose or addiction, we want to know where they've gone. Their lives were so awful. We can't believe, first of all, that they've gone and we couldn't save them and nothing could be done. We go through periods of self-recrimination, self-judgment. We are awful to ourselves. We say, this actually, at the end of it, is my fault because I didn't save them and I'm still living. So how did that work out, you know? And we long to know where they've gone. Where have they gone? You know, they've just ceased and disappeared. I'm a Catholic. I have a faith. But I say there is as many Catholics and people of faith as there are actual people on the earth. God, in my opinion, is good. We are all loved, whoever we are, whatever we do and think. Okay, so where have they gone? We long for a message. We long for a message and we're like this. Send me a message, send me a message. Where have you gone? And then we don't believe that we can. We don't believe that we deserve it. We don't really believe that there's a God. We don't really believe that there's anywhere that they've gone, but yet we sometimes do. And we think, well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. It's part of the confusion of losing someone. And when someone has traumatically died, then we long for some reassurance. And what I say is that it comes. I think that when we are newly bereaved, we are in such a state that we wouldn't notice even if they, descended in a cloud of fire next to us. We wouldn't notice because we're just like, whoa. And also sometimes we do get kind of little signs of grace given to us, but we can't recognise them. And when we do recognise them, for a while we often say, well, no, that's not enough, or no, that's just something else, and we explain it away. We rationalise it, so we use our brains to say, well, that can't be true, even though if we were in a different position, if we felt a bit better, we might say, wonderful, that is a sign of grace, thank you. So, Costya, my oldest son, died in 2023, and I had a lot of signs before he left, before he died, and I've made a note of them here. The first one was a year or so before he died, when a friend came round with a pack of cards which were kind of fun cards about good things that are going to happen, and she said, oh, I'll just do these, and she laid them out. And when my time came, there was death in the future. And normally I don't believe in any of this kind of thing, and it isn't, you can't tell the future, not really. Some people say they can, yes, and maybe they can, but not like this, not with my friend and me, we couldn't. But I was absolutely struck with the understanding that this was true, and there was a death coming, and I knew it was Costya, and I rationalised it away. For about a week or two afterwards, I was traumatised by thinking, this is a pack of cards, this is my friend, we don't do things like this often. When we do, it's fun. This is not fun. This is weird. This is horrible. And then the year went by and Costya was fine. Then I had a dream where I was in a very dark black place, and it was a nice place. Sometimes deep, dark blackness isn't about evil and loss. It's about sheer possibility. It's a place of sheer possibility. So I was in this dark place, and I knew there was somebody on the floor in front of me, and I understood that I had to lift this person up and put them back into their soul. So I knew it was Costya, and I found him in front of me and lifted him back up, and as I was lifting him, I was thinking, I don't know what a soul looks like. How am I going to put this person into their soul? And at that moment, a little white light came from the distance towards me, and I thought, that's the soul. I know what to do now. And as it came nearer, I put the body back in its soul. And as I did that, hundreds of other little white lights came. So that was a nice dream. Then I had another one where there was a big sort of hole in the ground, and there were people there, and I was leaning over this hole, and I put my hand down to grasp somebody to save them from this hole. And it wasn't a bad dream. There was no pain or anxiety in this. It was just something I was doing. So I pulled somebody out. I put my hand down again, and I got Kostya's hand. And as I was trying to pull him up, his hand slipped out of mine, and he fell, and I lost him. And in that dream, I remember thinking, I fear that Costya may die soon. Then I got another sign. The last sign was that my beautiful brother Dominic, who died in 2016, who was a Catholic priest and a very holy and good man, I dreamt that somebody knocked at my front door, and I went to the door and opened it, and there was Dominic. Oh my goodness, Dom, I said, Dominic. And he looked very beautiful and very compassionate and very serious, and he took me in his arms and he held me. And I remember thinking, Dominic's here for a reason. Then Costya died, and I found him. After he died, I did receive signs from him. I was traumatised, not really, because Costya had been so many years an addict and an alcoholic, and he was only 29 when he died. And his life was so appalling. I don't know how he lived as long as he did, and I wish that he could have lived longer and we could have helped him and his life could have been good here with me and his sister and Dimitri, his brother. However, just about a week after he died, I'd been asking Costya, where are you? And I went out of my bedroom and Kostya's room was opposite mine and he had a pink towel dressing gown, and in this sort of twilight dream state I saw him padding out of his room with his pink dressing gown on towards the bathroom, and then he disappeared. Another sign I got, oh yes, I was in the kitchen and I was cooking and in walks Costya, and he said, I said, Costya, you're alive. And he said, look what I can do, meaning I can manifest and come into your kitchen. And it was so lovely. It was so lovely. That was another dream. And these dreams, I wake up after them and I know what's happened. And then the third, the third dream I had was wonderful because I was in this half-sleep state. And in this half-sleep state, I slipped sideways into another kind of realm, I'm going to call it. And it all happened in less than a second. And there was Costya, and he was in a bar, you know? And I was thinking, Costya, you're in a bar in heaven. What is this? And the other thought that ran consecutively was, he's been here all the time. He's always been here. And he put his hand out and he held my hand. I was so happy. And then another part of the dream, which I'll tell you about, which wasn't about Costya, was that I woke up, but I remembered that after that experience with Costya in the bar, I had been in the presence of maybe 4 or 5 light beings, just pure light, and my mum. And they were saying to me, oh my God, we are so proud of you. You have done so well. Oh, you are, we love you so much. And I don't remember that, but I remember waking from it and being on cloud 9. That was a real spiritual experience. Now, you are as loved. You are as loved. God knows why I was allowed that little experience, but that is you too. Heaven is so proud of you, so proud of you. You are a wonder. Finally, I was walking and I was asking for a sign for Costya, and I always say, because you don't know who you're going to pick up if you think spiritually. You know, there's a lot of darkness around, there's a lot of bad people, bad spirits, bad entities, and you just do not want to pick them up. So I always say Christ energy only, and ask for protection. And then I said Christ energy only, Costya, you know, I'd love to know if you're all right. And I heard in my head Kostya's voice saying, Mum, I am Christ energy, and laughing. And I laughed as well, because I thought, well, you know, if you're up there, then you are Christ energy. That's Costya. Dimitri, much different, not very much from Dimitri. Dimitri died on his 3rd attempt. On his 1st attempt, he tried to hang himself, and he said that just before the breath went out of him, Jesus appeared to him and gave him so much love and told him to go back. And so he did. And this is what made Dimitri say, if you knew how beautiful death was, you wouldn't be afraid. And as Dimitri's mental health and alcoholism developed after that, I think all he wanted to do was to go back to Jesus, to be there. He couldn't cope with being here. So with Dimitri, the only thing that happened with Dimitri was I had not been a practicing Catholic for 40 years, and I suddenly had this urge to go to Mass and to seek a priest and to make my confession. Confession is now called reconciliation, and what it is saying to the priest everything that's on your heart that burdens you, that you feel you've done wrong. Sin, in other words. But the things that you've done wrong and you just need some light and an absolution. So I found a priest in the end at my local church, my Catholic church, and he was lovely. We sat down in the church and I cried my way through so much of my life, feeling that I had failed so much. And the priest was lovely and he absolved me, which is what Catholic priests do through prayer. And I felt that the world had lifted from my shoulders, and I came home and I thought, I don't understand why I had to do that. Later on that night, Dimitri killed himself, and I think that I was being prepared for it. The two signs I've had from Dimitri since he died, because he's in a different league, I think, to Costya, and he is being loved and cared for in the light, but he has healing to do, as does Costya, but Costya seemed to have been able to do more. When I was trying to meditate, honestly, I don't meditate well, but I was giving it a go, and about the sort of 9th attempt, I sort of went into a different state, and I saw a face just form itself in front of me with a big nose, and Dimitri had a huge nose, a big beaky nose. And this face said to me, "You are my mother, I'm okay." And I took that as a sign from Dimitri, or from God, or from Spirit, or from Source, or whoever you like to call it. Dimitri's okay. I then had a dream where I opened up my garden gate and Dimitri was wandering around playing football, perfect health, looking wonderful and so happy, just playing football. And then the most recent one, a couple of nights ago, Dimitri played the piano so beautifully. I dreamt that I was in the co-op, and in the middle of the co-op was somebody, this tall person with a beaky nose, playing piano like beautifully. And I went up, I thought, that's Dimitri. Oh my goodness, and in a dream I was wandering around and looking at him from different angles saying, wow, he's playing even better than he ever did. This is amazing. So I'm going to end now. I'm going to suggest that there are signs for you if you want them. And when they come, I call them grace. They are touches of grace. And they may be symbolic. It's unlikely that you will have your loved one appear to you and talk to you face to face and answer your questions. There is some kind of way that they will communicate with you symbolically, and you will know. And if it does happen to you, yes, you can try and rationalise it away, but what if you didn't do that? Or what if you started to rationalise it away and then thought, no, I'm going to accept that. I'm going to accept that. Because, you know, theoretically it either is or it isn't. So if you immediately assume it isn't, then you've lost that it is. And it might be, and in my opinion, probably is. So, bless you. I hope that you find relief and consolation and light yourself in your journey. Never give up hope. Never give up hope. You're still breathing. I'm still breathing. We are all still breathing. We are here for a reason. We are precious and alive. God bless. More soon.